Hello, everybody. This is your old pal, Uncle Hondo, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Joined now by a guy that has been a friend of mine for a couple of decades, just not a journalist, but a dear friend. I cover the NFL from an inside look. I cover it microly. He covers it macroly for the spun.com. With our continued growth, some of you are meeting him for the first time, but the Spun is one of the best sports aggregate websites in the world. It's just the way they aggregate from everywhere. It's kind of TMZ meets sports. Matt Haladik is with me. Matt, am I being fair when I say that? Because I know it's not. I hate TMZ, but it kind of is a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's a mix of your major sports
Pop culture
stories
and
and
sports.
pop culture. Yeah, so it's a little bit of a mix of both. So I think that's actually a fair assessment for sure.
Where pop culture meets sports. It isn't just
Yes.
pop culture to be, but my
Yeah,
God, you love to put any story up with Taylor Swift in it.
that's true.
That's true. All right, buddy. We got a lot to talk about this week. My season predictions, my final season predictions came out. I'm going to give you my quick analysis of why I came to the number I came to. I want to hear from you, and then we're going to get right into this Sunday's game against the Bolts in La La Land. Um, the Raiders got a lot of talent all over the place. Have some youth, and youth are going to make youth mistakes. But at the most important position, they have two guys that have been successful. I'm not saying they're Super Bowl winners. I'm not saying they're that, but they've been successful. My point to you is simply this, and I think it's a big point. You're not relying on guys who've never done it. So you have to be able to believe one of them is going to step up, and you're not asking them to be Patrick Mahomes. You're asking them to be game managers because they both have a track record. I think you can. I think it is safe to believe when you look at past performance being indicative of future performance that one of them will step up. I think the Raiders get to 10 wins. I think there's plenty of talent there. If the guy can just manage the game, hand off to Zeus, get it to his tight ends, then takes his shots downfield, I think the Raiders are going to be just fine with that defense. I think 10 wins, and I consider success if they go 11 wins, 9, or 10 within one. What's your thoughts?
I think when we did this exercise in June or whenever we first did it, I think I had 9-8, and I
Yep, you
think
did.
that I'm probably looking at it around the 500 mark, 8-9 wins. I mean, obviously you can't go 500 anymore unless you tie one game and you go 8-1. But I think because of the uncertainty at quarterback, with they didn't know who was going to be going into the summer, and Gardner Minshew is regarded as a really good quality backup or spot starter, but not a franchise guy. And people are looking at Aiden O'Connell as not necessarily a franchise guy. So I think that kind of has led to a perception outside about the lack of talent on the Raiders roster. I don't think there's a lack of talent. They have talent there. Um, do I think that they're going to be a playoff team in the AFC? I think they're going to fall just a little short of that because I think the AFC is loaded. I mean, it's going to be stiff competition to get it in playoffs, but I think they're going to be around that 8 or 9 win mark all year long, and I think that's progress. Coming from last year, I think that's a pretty good foundation for Antonio Pierce in year one.
Yeah, I here's my point though, Matt. They won 8 games last year and finished one game out of the playoffs. If AP had been there the whole year, I certainly think the win total would have been higher than 8. So when you look at that and they add Christian Wilkins, they bring in some other key parts. They bring in a very interesting Luke Getsy offense. I like the offense. Now, players have to execute it, but I like the offense. When you look at all of that and add Gardner Minshew to Aiden, where they won those games last year, to me, I don't think it's far fetched to look for one or two more game increase as far as production. That's where I come to those numbers. But good thoughts on your part. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. How vital for the Raiders is a fast start? You've got the Bolts learning 3 new phases of a team. special teams, offense, defense. They've lost a lot of players. There's a lot of new guys. I just think this game is a very vital game. And the Raiders, I don't think they're going to win the next week in Baltimore. But I think it's important coming off the excitement of last year, AP, get your guys still feeling good about themselves this year. I just think a fast start in Cali on Sunday is a monster deal. I think the Raiders win it, but I think it's a very, very big game for a lot of reasons. Certainly not the season's not over if they lose. I just think it's an injection of Viagra in their soul if they make this win.
I think that that's an interesting way of putting it, but I do agree with you because if you look at it, 0-1, your season's not over. But if you go 0-2, you're starting to feel the pressure.
Yep.
And I think they are going to lose week 2 in Baltimore. I think that that's just, it's a West Coast team going East Coast. Baltimore should be very good.
Early.
Early start. So I think that makes Sunday even more imperative because if you win Sunday, even if you lose week 2, you're 1-1 coming home against the Panthers, who should be one of the worst teams in the league again. That you can get to 2-1, and then you look at their 3 games after that. The Browns made the playoffs last year, but they're not an unbeatable team. Broncos on the road, but it's a divisional game. They handled the Broncos last year. And the Steelers at home, that's a winnable game because I think the Steelers are going to be a tough out like always, and they're going to be in the mix. But I have questions about their offense, so I think the Raiders can win that game. So you look at their first 6 games, I think it's, if they're going beyond just Sunday, if they're 3-3, 4-2, if they're 4-2, even 3-3 in those first 6 games, you're like, okay, they can be a factor for the rest of the season. Anything worse than that, and it's concerning because then you have the Chiefs, then you have the Rams, the Bengals, the Dolphins. It gets a lot tougher over those next 6 games or so.
I think they start 5-1, but then lose those next 4, and then they're 5-5. But you know what? It's gonna this game is more than just one game. They're going to have the home field advantage at Allegiant Southwest. Raider fans just show up in Cali. Again, they're going to have the home field advantage. There's a lot of question marks for the Chargers. I just think it's imperative for them to get week 1. All right, let's go in a different direction. I'm talking to friends around the NFL. Okay. And I just sent out a text. Well, I want to be careful how I word this. So I get a text from a friend of mine that plays for another team, doesn't play for the Raiders. He says, "Are you hearing anything about them canceling the game in Brazil and bringing it back to America?" And I said, "Nothing, question mark." So we have a text, and he's talking about there's a lot of concern among NFL players, especially after Ricky Pearsall gets shot in San Francisco. I did not know this, but evidently they're telling players not to, they're going to stay in their hotels, whatever. There's a lot of players that are like, listen, if we're going someplace that isn't safe, maybe we shouldn't be going there to grow the game. I know you've started to hear some of this feedback as well. It's kind of a growing, burgeoning thing. How big of a concern is this for the NFL?
Sure. I think we had a post up the other day that there was, some calls, even just from fans or people publicly saying that maybe it would be wiser to cancel the game and bring it back to America. I think that, like you said, the NFL has made it a point to grow the game and a point to, expand its footprint overseas. They went from just playing games in London to playing games in Germany, and they've had some games in Mexico City, and now they're going down to Brazil. To me, I think that player safety should always be your number one concern. And you also are going to have some fans who make the trip from America to go to the game. And you have to, obviously you're thinking about NFL personnel first, but you also have to consider that as well. I'm assuming the game goes off as scheduled at this point.
I do too.
But I don't blame any players or coaches or family members, whoever, from being a little concerned, and I do wonder if the NFL, even if they make it out of this safe and there's no problems, if it doesn't, change their minds or their approach for playing in different locations going forward.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. I'm going to tell you, you and I have been on this for a while. I told you a lot of NFL players are very nervous about NFL expansion. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. Putting teams in foreign countries permanently, because foreign tax laws are certainly very different than America.
Mhm.
But now you're looking at safety concerns. I think the NFL has taken for granted its relationship with the NFLPA. I just am getting the feeling, Matt, and I know they've got a long deal. What do they have? 6 years left in it, 7 years
I
left in
think
it,
it's
something like
through,
that.
yeah, I think it's through 2030, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head.
Yeah. And so we're sitting here at 2014. So there's 6 years left on this deal. I am getting the impression from the players, and granted, 6 years, most of them are not going to be in the league. But I am getting the impression from players, and if it stays true to whole, which is a term from playing cards, I think the NFLPA, this next big deal, is going to really push back against the NFL. They're going to push back against the power of the commissioner. They're going to push back about potential growth overseas. Not against it, but boy, protections. They're going to be. I think in 6 years, and I realize they're going to probably start negotiating 4. I think we're going to see some interesting times. I think we're going to see a dispensational shift in the NFL coming in that new deal in 2030. Your thoughts?
Right, and we've talked about this in the past in relation to the 18 game schedule, which everybody pretty much is almost taking for granted that it's going to happen.
It's
And I
coming.
think it probably
Yep.
will happen, but you're going to see concessions asked for on the players' part, and you're going to see them wanting a give and take with the owners in order to make that possible. So when you factor in the 18 game schedule, potential expansion overseas, and different things like that, I think it has the potential to be contentious, or at least it's going to be a consequential CBA. There's all CBAs are important, but there's some that are more consequential and more long-reaching than others, and I think this is going to be one of those.
Yeah, it's setting up that way. All right, I want to talk to you about Travis Kelce. Now, in the interest of fair disclosure, we've talked about it on this program before. I've known Travis and his brother because Butch Jones, the head coach
Mhm.
of Cincinnati Bearcats and went on to Tennessee, he's now at Arkansas State, is one of my best friends on planet Earth. Been a great friend of mine for a long, long time. So obviously got to know the Kelce's through him. But I said this last year after the Super Bowl that I had a first row seat to watching the bad boys go for a three-peat. And I just thought that the Chiefs need to shut up. Now, I'm not a Raider fan. To cover the Raiders, I have tons of respect for the Raiders, but they're just jacking their jaws and they're putting pressure. And you notice it's not Andy, the best coach in the NFL. It's not Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback, but it's other people. And they just need to shut up. And I think Travis is so used to thinking everybody wants to hear me because I'm dating Taylor Swift now. I'm going to say it right here. They may get to a Super Bowl. I still don't think they're winning it. I don't bet. I'll play cards and stuff, but I don't. I'm not a bettor because I cover the sport. I think it would be immoral for me to bet on something that way. I don't want anyone to ever think it would impact my coverage. But I think this is just stupidity. And if I were a betting man on football, I would move all in that they don't win the Super Bowl. I just think, and he comes out and says, the best is yet to come. Well, you won 2 Super Bowls. So the only way that can come true is if you become a father, which is better than a Super Bowl, or if you win a third in a row. Those are some, now, maybe he's planning on becoming a dad. And if he is, then what I'm saying is stupid. all don't think that's what he was implying. And at some point, somebody needs to put their arm around his shoulders and say, Travis, shut up. Or do you think I'm wrong? Because it's great for us. I just don't think it's good for his team.
Well, I think that the attitude that the best is yet to come, and the attitude that he said, I think earlier this week, that I'm feeling, as good as I've ever felt, and whatever. It's the attitude you have to take. I mean, you have to bring that to you, especially when you've experienced this success, so you don't get complacent. He's going to be 35 next month, so he's not young. Still played at a high level last year, especially the playoffs. To me, I go back and forth on it because I understand what you're saying. It's something that's never been done before. I think the closest we've seen, at least in my lifetime, I could say, is the Cowboys in the 90s going 3 titles in 4 years, 2 in a row, lost an NFC title game, then 1 in third. But on one hand, so it's something that's never been done before. So you want to say, hey, listen, be a little humble, be a little, under the radar. On the other hand,
can I interrupt for 1 second? Because I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. He should feel that way.
Right. No, I agree. You're saying not publicly.
He should get out of bed every day saying, we're getting this thing. We're going after it. But he's got a lot of teammates who maybe don't have his mental acumen or his mental toughness. He should be doing everything he can to shed stress, because stress is bad, pressure's good. But to be able to say, hey, I got 52 other teammates, and I don't want to be throwing coals on their fire. I don't want to give them a brick to carry around when they're already carrying around a big bag. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, to me, I agree totally what you're saying. I totally understand it. I will. The one thing I will say is this: I can understand why the Chiefs have that air of invincibility right now, because to me, they have the best coach and the best quarterback in the NFL. And when they're looking out at their opponents, no, they're saying, who's beating us? Because you think about the two best. I think the 2 best quarterbacks in the AFC after Patrick Mahomes are Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I think Joe Burrow is right in line there when he's healthy, but Allen and Lamar have played more football. They've been more durable. They've done more over the course of their career, although Burrow does have the Super Bowl appearance. But those 2 guys have been the biggest challengers to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs beat them every year in the playoffs. And listen, could the Bengals pose a threat this year and Burrow again? Maybe. But and like you liken back to the Bad Boys. The Bad Boys, they beat, they dethroned the Celtics, they dethroned the Lakers, they had beaten up on the Bulls to that point. It's going to take a team finding that next gear like the Bulls did in 91 to get past the Chiefs. And right now, if I'm the Chiefs, I feel like, what team is that going to be? Because I don't know if there is one in the AFC. I really don't.
I'm going to say this to you, though. I have a friend that played on the Dallas Cowboy team that went for the 3rd Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And he said to me that probably the dumbest thing they did is they all talked about it and built themselves into such a furor. And he said that Jimmy even warned them, hey, you should feel this way, but keep your mouth shut. Just you're going to get everybody's best shot every week. Mm-hmm. And then you're giving them more momentum. We want to be the ones to knock you off. And I'm just saying, I don't think it's wise on Jason's part. I love the bravado. I think he should feel that way, but I'm going to tell you right now, I don't think this Chiefs team is as good as the Steelers. As the Cowboy team that went for the 3-peat. I don't think it's even close to as good as they were. Troy Aikman was not as good as Patrick Mahomes, but he was also different. He had better weapons on the outside than Patrick Mahomes had, and a much better running back, and a much better offensive line, and a better defense. So I just think it's funny. And if you are a fan of the other 31 teams, I think you're saying, keep talking, Travis. Keep talking, Travis. It's going to be interesting to watch. I agree. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. The next tier is Joe Burrow because he's the one that has success beating Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. I agree with you. Those three are the next three. All right, let's keep moving now, my friend. Jimmy Johnson comes out and doesn't use these exact words, but basically uses these words. I did not extend my coach. It is Super Bowl or bust. Jimmy being Jimmy. Gotta
Jerry,
love it.
Jerry,
I'm thinking about Jimmy Johnson because I just talked about the 3-peat team. But Jerry Jones being Jerry Jones, God bless the man. It's great for us. I don't think this team is a Super Bowl team. It's going to be fascinating. The drama in Dallas. It's even better than the original television show Dallas because this is a scripted, this is a reality show.
Right. And I think that there's so many storylines coming into this year. Mike McCarthy right now is a potential lame duck coach. Dak Prescott doesn't have a new deal. If they get off to a slow start, or they're not looking like a Super Bowl contender, the Bill Belichick whispers are only going to grow louder. It's going to be interesting. One thing you can guarantee going into every season is the Cowboys are going to have a lot of talent, and they're going to get talked about a lot. They're going to generate a lot of conversation. What their record is, how they finish in the playoffs, that's something that's that's been the issues over time. Although they've been really good in the regular season the last few years, to be fair. But they're going to have a lot of talent. And they're going to have a lot of people talking about them. So I think we all know it. Like we all knew going before Jerry Jones said it. Mike McCarthy's under the pressure. They have to have postseason success. Now, if that postseason success means they win a game or two and they lose the NFC title game, would he get fired then? I don't know. Or if they got to the Super Bowl and lost to Kansas City or whoever, would he get fired then? I don't know. That would be a really good season, obviously. But he's under immense pressure. He can't go 11-6 and lose in the wild card round.
Can't do it. All right. So let's turn now to Jim Harbaugh. In the interest of fair disclosure, I've known Jimmy a long time. I have so much respect for him, his brother, his father. Man, his dad is just is a great human being. Quite frankly, the whole family are good people. When I say that about his dad, I'm not talking poorly of him. But a lot of smoke at Michigan. And now he's coming out saying the NCAA has no credibility. I agree with him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, I think the NCAA is the most disingenuous thing in America outside of government. That tells you how low I hold government. If I have them, or if anything, I have worse than the NCAA. But when you look at all that's going on, and this is what I love about Jimmy, he's just going to tell you what he thinks. I love that. Antonio Pierce is the same way. I respect that in people. But in this situation with all that's going on, do you think it would just be better for Jimmy to say, to just say no comment? I'm just curious. What do you think?
No comment, because like you said, there is a lot of smoke in terms of, they already gave him the show cause and the 1-year suspension for the recruiting stuff during COVID. There's a lot of smoke, like you mentioned, about, the Connor Stallion sign stealing stuff. And that's obviously in the news with the Netflix documentary that just came out. So there's a part of you that says, maybe you want to just kind of say, I'm not answering questions about it or no comment, whatever. But then people may say, that makes you look guilty. And Jim Harbaugh is not the type of guy, you know him personally, but I just know from professionally and seeing how he is, he's not the type of guy who's going to kind of just, try to have something fade into the background. He's going to go a little bit on the offensive. He's going to be proactive about it. I think that's what you saw with the NCAA lack credibility. They're hypocrites, what he said. And I think in some ways, that's smart because here's the thing. Even people who may think that Michigan's guilty or they did something wrong, a lot of people feel that way about the NCAA. I agree with them in general. I think the NCAA doesn't lacks credibility. I think it is hypocritical. I think that there's a lot of things you can complain about the NCAA. A laundry list. We could do shows about it. So I think I actually kind of understand where he's coming from here by going a little bit on the offensive. Now, could it blow up in his face when the investigation gets released, depending on what it finds? Sure. But I think for now, I understand what he's doing.
Yeah. Listen, I want him to speak his mind. I think he should. I just think when it comes to just talking about the credibility of the NCAA, I just let it go. You know what? By the way, did you see the Netflix Connor Stallions?
I haven't watched it yet. I've seen clips, but I need to sit down probably this weekend and really watch it.
It's phenomenal. All right, last thing I want to get into, maybe two more things, but Jon Gruden's going to have his own YouTube channel. This is golden. I love Jon Gruden. I love everything about Jon Gruden. I think this is great. I'm going to be an avid watcher because I love the guy. Your thoughts on Gruden and his YouTube channel?
I think it could be a shrewd move for him because I think he has the opportunity now to really kind of speak his mind and be independent. He's not beholden to an organization. He's not beholden to ESPN where they're, his employers. He can really be open about what he feels. And I think it could make for some fascinating content, not just from a pure football analysis perspective about teams and players and quarterbacks, but about, the NFL in general and things he might riff on. So I think I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of interesting stuff that we write about coming out of Jon Gruden's YouTube channel in the coming months.
All right. I'm going to get into one other thing. And because I think it's a big deal. I don't think it's getting talked about enough. When a player's in the last year of a deal, I don't mind the holdouts. But let's go to Ja'Marr Chase. He's got 2 years left on a deal. Now, God bless him. He can do whatever he wants. And I do think the most stingiest franchise, in my opinion, in the NFL is the Cincinnati Bengals. I do think on this one they're going to acquiesce and re-sign him.
Mm-hmm.
But if players underperform and it's guaranteed money, teams are kind of stuck. I understand a guy holding out when he has no more guaranteed money. I have no issue with that. He still does. 2 years left on his deal. I got kind of an issue with this. And you may not, but I think at some point, again, if there's no guaranteed money left, I have no issue. But when there's still guaranteed money left on the deal, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is underpaid. When you look at whatever other people are getting, he's underpaid. And he's like, no, I signed it. I'm gonna play as long as I got my guaranteed money. What do you think of this Ja'Marr Chase thing?
Well, I will say one kind of corollary with the Mahomes thing is I would bet money, and I'm sure you would too, that there's conversations ongoing right now between Mahomes' representation, the Chiefs, that listen, don't worry, we understand you're underpaid. You're gonna get yours. We're gonna work something out. There's stuff going on behind the scenes there. With Ja'Marr Chase, one reason why I can understand it from his perspective is you look around the league, and yes, I know that Brandon Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb were going into the final year, the rookie option year of their deals, their 2020 draft picks. But those are two guys that got their big money. Justin Jefferson got his big money. If you're Ja'Marr Chase, you're looking at it and saying, I'm better than Brandon Ayuk, who's really good, but I'm better than him. I'm in the class, if not better than CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson. Why am I not getting paid? I need to this deal. Joe Burrow got his deal when it was time, last offseason or whenever it was. So I understand where he's coming from. I do think the Bengals are eventually going to get something done because, listen, let's be honest. This week in practice, they're less than a week out from the opening game, and he's there and not, he's dressed, but he's not participating, and he's kind of, this hold-in type thing. And I don't think he necessarily – I think he'll be ready to go come Sunday as long as he takes the field. but you still don't want that, and you don't want that hanging over you if you're the Bengals. So I do think something gets done. But I don't blame Jamar Chase, because I feel like I understand where you're coming from, saying there's 2 years left on the deal. But this to me is him saying, all these guys that I'm in the same class as have gotten paid. I want to be proactive about this. I don't want to go into next offseason with everybody questioning me and saying, what are you going to get? In that case, everyone knows he's going to hold out if he doesn't have a contract going into his 5th year. So I think getting ahead of it like this, it kind of ensures that he's going to get a good deal.
If this was next year, I'd have no issue with it. I would support it. And I think he's better than CeeDee Lamb, better than Ayuk. I don't think he's better than Jefferson, but he's in that same type of place.
I agree, yes.
So I don't have an issue with him wanting more money. This is where the Bengals, if they were smart, wanting to keep him happy, would have already went to him and said, listen, before this all happened, next year we're going to come out and it's going to be a year past. So we're going to make you the highest paid wide receiver, because it'll be 2 years past Justin. We're going to make you the highest paid. But we want you to know what we're thinking, but we don't want to set a precedence when people still have guaranteed money. But we're telling you right now that's where we're going to go. I don't think there's an issue then. But I'm just thinking about there is a problem. Let me just say, growing up, I was a monster baseball fan. And then it got to the point with all the strikes that when they literally began canceling iconic moments of the game, that I said, I'm done. I'm done with it. Frustrated with the MLB management and owners. I'm frustrated with the players. Just frustrated with it. And they lost me. Now, I don't think that that's coming here at all. I don't think the NFL's the only enemy the NFL has is the NFL. But the more what happens next? The guy holds out after a great rookie year. I mean, he's paid to have a good year. That's my whole point. Is I just think that you can come a point where you start to push the envelope, and then you start to really make your fans. I just think too many business decisions are made in the NFL, and they don't think about how does this alienate my fans. Just a thought. That's why I put it out there, because you and I talk about everything. He is the great Matt Halak from thespun.com. You can find him. Matt, tell everybody your social media handle, will you?
Yeah, you can find me at Matt Haladik 919, at MATTHLADIK 919 on X and Twitter. And I've already going to tweet about college football last weekend. I'll be tweeting about tomorrow, about this weekend's games and the openers and everything. And you can just find me throughout the season, always interact. A lot of Raider fans have joined up already and follow me. So come say hi.
All right, buddy. Talk to you soon. Go Green. Got to get a win in Maryland this weekend.
Yes, big game, big swing game for both teams.
I agree. See you later, bud.